All right, guys, we're going to do a quick tutorial into how to use descriptive statistics and how to put error bars into a graph for AP biology. So here I have some sample data. If we did 3 trials of an experiment, and here's our experimental group and our control group. You'll notice I put the titles down on the bottom. That's going to come in handy later. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is get the descriptive statistics. So we need the mean. So that's going to be equals the average. And then you'll open parentheses and you'll choose the data points you want the average of. And then we'll go ahead and copy that over, and that'll give the same formula for that column. And then we need our standard deviation, which is often written just as S. So once again, equals, we'll start doing our standard deviation. We want the standard deviation of S for here. There's the old-fashioned standard deviation, which works as well. But if I double-click that, we want the same numbers. Click Enter. Now I want that standard deviation for both, so I'm going to drag it over. Then we get to the standard error of the mean. For the standard error, Excel does not have a formula. So you have to go to your formula sheet to remember what that formula is. But basically it equals the standard deviation, so that's P7, divided by the square root of your sample size. So you have to write square root. My sample size in this case happens to be 3, square root of 3. And you press Enter, and that gives you your standard error of the mean. Now, last thing that we need is a 95% confidence interval. Now, technically it's 1.96 times the standard error of the mean. AP Biology prefers to use 2 times the standard error of the mean. It does make things simpler. Wouldn't say it's mathematically correct, but it makes things simpler. So we'll say that 95% confidence interval equals that standard error of mean times 2. And now we have our 95% confidence interval. So what that means is we can be 95% confident that when we run this trial again, the numbers will fall somewhere between plus or minus 3.5, 6 plus or minus 3.5, or 20 plus or minus 9.8. Not very reliable there. The reason that I put these units or these titles above or below the data is so that I can now make this graph. So I'm going to go ahead and graph the experimental versus the control data. You're going to go to Graphs, Recommended Charts, and we're going to use a clustered column chart for this. So we'll insert that clustered column. And so now what I need, obviously the control data is much higher than the experimental data. And so we could look at this and say there is a difference, but is it significant? That's where we need to use our descriptive statistics. So you're going to go over here to plus, and you're going to do error bars. Now you could just put in error bars, and Excel just puts in some random error bars. I'm sure there's a reason for it. And then you might think, oh, the standard error bars, but that does not give us the proper standard error. What we want to do is go down here to more options. This gives us our error bar options here. And then down at the bottom, I would like custom error bars. So I'm going to click custom error bars. Now I have to specify a value. So what I would like to do is I would like to go plus these 2 in order, and that'll make them in order. I would also like to go minus, and I'll highlight the 2 confidence intervals. Right, press Enter again. And now our error bars are proper. This is plus or minus 9.85, 865, and this is plus or minus 3.57. And what you'll notice is they do, in fact, overlap just barely. So now, although there's a big difference, statistically, it is not significant. Now, you can also do this in a line graph. So if I went to insert recommended charts, and it doesn't really like to do a line graph here, but if I went to all charts and I did an XY scatter plot, right, so I could make this an XY scatter plot, and the error bars would still be there. So our error bars, more options. And you can do the same thing and still get your error bars to see if they overlap. So I hope that helps as a little tutorial on how to put descriptive statistics